Hello, 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 and everyone, welcome to, well, I guess the second episode of Verdict of the Ancient Kings. Our client is not guilty. We will be once again going into the back, or going into a little bit more of Hex Shards of Fate, focusing primarily on Hero Fall. Over the past weekend, a lot of players, I want to say the weekend, over the past week, a lot of players were able to really dive in and get a look at Hero Fall and really what the mechanics are of that set, both in the limited and the constructed format. And we just thought we'd highlight some of those things for you. Once again, I am not alone in, well, cyberspace. Alongside digitally with me is going to be Nico Sharp. Nico, how you doing?
Good, Corona. Thanks for having me again.
No, no problem. It's not me having you. This was your show and your idea. I just thought, like, you know what? I have some casting background and casting experience. So, yes, thank you for, I guess, putting at least some of this together as we go into our second show. And we are going to be looking at some things from the playtest realm, both in the limited play and the constructed play. And Nico, first thing I wanted to ask you was, did you do a lot of limited play or did you mainly focus on constructed?
I didn't play on the test realm very much at all, actually. I only did a Swiss, I'm sorry, a sealed gauntlet,
Mm-hmm.
and that was really my only experience. I played about two or three games, and that was it.
All right. One of the things that I really noticed with Hero Fall in general, and this may have to do a lot with the whole entire war mechanic that they were trying to promote. There isn't a lot of straight up removal. Hero Fall being one of the larger removals in the game is a rare, so you don't really see that much, and you actually have a lot more troops battling. Did you get that feel as well?
Yeah, I had that feeling as well when I played a. I only realized that when I was building the deck, but
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the troops actually have removal abilities built into them,
Mm-hmm.
so that was kind of neat.
Yeah. So one of the things there, or two of the things that we wanted to look at a little bit more closely in the playtest realm for limited play was the new mechanics. And in my limited play, I was able to play a handful of games. I found Scrounge to be a very, very potent combination, especially with those Dreadlings. If you guys didn't know, the Dreadlings pretty much have every single keyword that I would associate with the underworld. There's spiders, they're robots. What else are they? They're spiders, they're robots, and I forget what the third keyword is. Oh yeah,
Shroomkins.
and Shroomkins. So they cover the entire gambit of what Underworld is without really being Underworld, and they fill up your crypt really really quickly. And what I ended up finding was, for some strange reason, I got the Undying Weaver in two of my five gauntlets, and taking a look at the Undying Weaver, if you guys didn't get to play with them, the Undying Weaver is a 4-drop triple blood threshold troop that's a 5/4. But when this dies, put it into your hand and lose 4 health. Scrounge 2, when this enters play, create a spider spawn and put it into play. Now, I was wondering how Scrounge would work on this particular card, but Scrounge, when you Scrounge, it adds the game text to that card. So if you play the card
Oh.
again and scrounge, you get a second spot. You get 2 spider spawns.
Oh
Now,
wow.
normally you would think like, okay, Undying Weaver, you are losing a lot of health. But there is this card called Taste for Blood, which also corresponds with the Dreadlings and Assault, and you give your troop life drain. So by the third time that my Undying Weaver was just, constantly getting killed, I would play him. He'd be a 7/6 life drain troop that was creating 3/4 spiders a turn, and it didn't matter when he died because he was generating you 7 life every single time he kind of chump blocked something that was a little bit too big for him to eat. And eventually my opponent I think he just flipped the board and forfeited because there was over 9 spiders on the board at that point, and there's nothing that he could really do in order to slow it down. So that was my interesting combination that I found in the limited play. So Undying Weaver, definitely look for it. I know it is a rare, but definitely check that out. And you had some experience with Valor, correct?
Yeah, I mean, your combo is way more interesting than mine. From the little experience I had playing limited, I was looking at a few different cards, and I built a deck around Ardent Troops and Valor.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the neat things I found was there's this 2-drop artifact called the Fiend of Nolzon,
Mm-hmm.
and if you socket him with the Ruby Minor Gem that creates a Valor and puts it into your hand when he enters play, you can get a little bit of value out of him with other ardent troops that trigger off of valor effects.
Mm-hmm.
So I had an interesting interaction where I had Fiend of Nulzon Trash Mute, where I could actually then kill my own Fiend of Nulzon if I wanted to,
Mm-hmm.
or target an opponent's artifact and destroy that and then get a valor from it. So that was pretty cool. So I can get 2 valors from a single card. The 1/2 body on the Fiend wasn't that great
Mm-hmm.
later in the game, so that combo was pretty nice. And then the Grim Skull Tactician, which is also up here, does not combo with Arden at all, but he has a nice little effect that if you're playing socketed troops, you can exhaust other troops. So I was trying to make use of the socketed troops I got in my sealed pool,
Mm-hmm.
and then also combine those with Ardent troops that when they attack, they get a bonus from Valor, even though
Mm-hmm.
I'm not showing any of those here.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was pretty fun and it worked pretty well. I was able to win pretty consistently.
Well, one of the things that I liked about like socketing in general is it really feels like they've toned down and mellowed out the curve on what sockets and what the gems were. Before there was 3 to 4 of those enter play gems that I would say were the more favored of the gems, and it really threw the power curve off. And I think it really handicapped a lot of what the developers and the designers could do in the socketable realm space of what can we do here? Is it going to get too crazy? Things are going to get out of hand, as we saw with Titania's Majesty back in set 3. And since they kind of pulled it back a little bit, they kind of opened the floodgates for socketable troops. And I'm sure you noticed that you just had more like free realm and free play to play with socketed troops, even though you were restricted to opening 6 packs and what you see is what you get.
Yeah, there was a nice mix of socketed troops, and one of the things I was really interested in was just kind of testing the limits of socketed play and see how good the gems were. They definitely are a step down compared to the previous set gems and sockets, but I think I like the difference in power level and what the new I think they're calling them orbs now can do for the current meta.
Yeah, I gotta agree there in terms of just like before socketed troops, you kind of knew like sandstone crawler. Okay, I'm gonna be putting in the damage gem, and those kind of things. Like it was an obvious decision 9 times out of 10 in the previous format. Now you actually have to sit down and think like, what am I gonna really get the most most value, most bang for the buck. Like that +1/+1 is going to be helpful, but I don't have things that trigger off of Valorous, and it feels like overall this set has a lot more synergy, and I am really really looking forward to when people are heavily invested in their pools, not just playing Evo gauntlets or gauntlets waiting for like, come on, oh I got so much money, I'm just going to forfeit this gauntlet because I didn't get 2 legendaries and try and go for it again. So it's going to be interesting to see how the entire I guess the meta of limited kind of pans out over the next couple of weeks when there is finally a release date for Hero Fall. I gotta ask you, what do you think the over under is on Hero Fall release date?
Well, I mean, the PTR was very polished,
Mm-hmm.
so my guess is second week of September.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be much later than that.
Yeah, that'd be my guess too. Part of me is wondering, like, if they do the second week of September, is it gonna be the legal for the oh my the Cosmic Showdown tournament. For those of you guys who do
Hmm.
not know, the end of season 1 ladder ends in a little bit under 48 hours, or a little bit more than 40 hours, I believe, depending on where they
Mhm.
decide to set the clock. So people have been frantically trying to get into the top 64 of their specific ladders, and I gotta ask you. how have you been climbing? I've been falling personally. Not like I went to the playtest realm, I played, I came back, and the meta completely just smacked me down. So I gotta ask you, where do you sit on the two ladders right now, and what have you been seeing?
So on limited, I'm 35, so I made the top 64, and I've been playing a lot of Evo Gauntlet, and Evo is at the higher level. Evo is pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't always get matched up with cosmic players, but when I do, everyone has really polished play, real polished decks. You cannot make mistakes, or you can easily lose that rating very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
But what I kind of stopped climbing once I got to Cosmic on Constructed, so I have not seen a lot of the meta developing on that end. But I do hear from people. What have you been doing?
I've been trying to play a little bit of Evo, but I kind of ran out of packs after after a couple of bad runs on the Evo Gauntlet, where like normally like I go for 4 or 5 wins, and I think I lost a high Infinitrix like 5 times over the course of like 2 days and 10 games, where
Ouch.
you're just like, okay, high Infinitrix comes out of nowhere, and you're like, okay, I don't have enough removal. RNG kind of got to me. There was a couple of bad plays on my part as well, and you know what? Like, part of me wants to be blame, like, oh my gosh, RNG this, I'm, my shards this. I'm either flooded or I'm screwed, and really strong players are able to bounce back from that, and really strong players, I think, really strong players know when to mulligan, and I am still unsure of that situation where I have two shards and I'm going first, and I have one playable or two playables. Like, do you mulligan? And it's almost like the sixth sense where you if you have like a constructed deck, you know how your deck is gonna run. But in limited, if it's like your first Evo or you just cracked open a new pack, you're unsure of like, well, I think I had this many two drops and I think I have this many three drops. I should be okay, and your deck doesn't run the way you expect it to. So I still need to work on my Evo there. On the constructed side, I played a couple of constructed games today with a new variation on Rutherford Banks, not the Forever's Child version, but the one that's running Uranas and Cosmic Shaman, and I was quite surprised at how effective that particular version of Rutherford Banks was, where the Cosmic Shaman with the direct damage and life drain gem, even if you like extinction or it falls off the board immediately, the next troop in the deck gets double damage straight to the face. So if you hit with a dragon, if you hurt with Teonost, you can start voiding troops immediately. If they somehow get it to the crypt as well, you can play Rutherford Banks' hero ability and get it straight out, and it's uncounterable. So that was a lot of fun, just seeing how that particular deck is fleshing out, and I want to see how it's going to be moving forward in the future. If it's going to stick around and actually, I don't know, make top 8 of the Cosmic Showdown coming up in just a few weeks.
So that deck is playing tricolor?
Yeah, the deck is playing tricolor. It's running tiers. It's not running the shard call, and how it really works is, well, I guess I can try and load it up and show Hex real quick. How it works is it 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 has burn, it has vampiric kisses in order to hinder Yoltul, in order to get rid of like the whirling brutalizers and the Ghostblade Dancers, things of that nature. It gets them off the board, and with enough life drain, once the Cosmic Shaman hits down, it it's really difficult to stop, just because Rutherford Banks and his hero power ability, short of a closed coffins, there's nothing that's going to stop you from getting a troop out of your crypt and into play. And that interplay effect, especially on a troop that, say, had the double Cosmic Shaman ability applied to it, and can more often than not win you the game.
Wow, yeah, that sounds really powerful.
All right, let me pull that up for you, and we can take a look at the deck list, and you can give your thoughts real fast before we move on to the next topic. Let me. All right.
Okay.
All right. Let Where is it? All right, you're gonna. How come it's not showing hex?
Oh.
Do you just see my face right now?
No, I still see the
Oh, there
oh,
it goes.
now I see your face.
All
There it
right.
goes. There it goes.
Okay.
Just a little lag time, not
Yeah.
much.
All right. So if you take a look at the deck here, it does run a variety of shard fixers. You have the adaptable infusion devices. You have the immortal tears, and I was running into a fair number of Yultul in on the ladder, so I upped the number of vampiric kisses and burns that I had straight off the bat, so I could kind of remove troops off of the board. The Mist Lord with double Cosmic Shaman is very deadly, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
If you can shift the Mist Lord ability onto Arunas as well, I've had that happen a couple of times where I deal damage. He comes into play. I swing. I pull him back, and he comes back into play, and I grab another troop, and it's just so much interplay and crypt manipulation that it's that even if you have an answer immediately the first time it comes into play, you don't have an answer the second, third, or fourth time it comes into play. So
Yeah, oh, it's fun.
yeah, it's fun, and it looks like a large jumble of cards until you play it, and you're like, wow, this is like your unless your opponent knows what to expect, they're gonna have a little bit of a difficult time trying to figure it out.
Yeah, you have a good curve too. I mean, you have the burn for the early game, and you have the extinction for the mid game,
Mm-hmm.
and you have spot removal as well. So yeah, that's you kind of got a little bit of everything.
Yeah,
Kind of a kitchen sink deck.
it is a kitchen sink deck, and I think it actually did go 4-0 in the last round of the VIPs, and that's where I saw it, and I was just like, oh, like why does this deck have like triple color banks? I got to play this to see how it works, and I was quite surprised.
Yeah, it's probably the last deck iteration that will make great use of the damage on Intergem before it goes away, or it's going to go into the Immortal format, and we'll see more variation on that.
Yeah, I'm very interested to see how that's going to play out. Now, you did say that you didn't get a chance to really play any constructed on the playtest realm.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't, but I have heard stories, and I know about the power of wild. So
Yeah, and that's obviously, or where I'm going to be jumping right into next. Um, I got to play a couple of wild games, and very quickly I was running into a large number of wild decks that showcased these two particular cards very heavily. What a Might Singer of Ages and Dreamweaver Ancient. Might Singer of Ages is a 2-drop single wild threshold, 2/2 crush with two very powerful abilities. When you gain a wild threshold, if the top card of your deck is a troop, draw it. Otherwise, put the top card of your deck. Put the top card of your deck into your deck, so it randomly gets reshuffled. Once you have 5 wild threshold, at the start of your turn, this gets +5/+5, and that continues to grow. So I was facing, I think 12/12 Midnight Singer of Ages on turn 5 at some points because of the amount of wild threshold ramp that is currently out there.
yeah, oh my God, I couldn't imagine having to deal with that card. Does anyone run into issues with that particular card though? If it's continually cycling resources when you need them, or does that rarely ever happen?
Well, what I found, or what appeared to happen sometimes, is people would get like Howling Braves off of it. Like, say they would play a wild, and then
Oh,
they would grab a Howling Brave, and then they would play a Howling Brave, and then another troop would come up, and it
oh
was,
my God.
yeah, it was really strange. Where Might Singer of Ages, people were drawing like 2-3 cards a turn off of this, and I'm just like, how, like, is this RNG, or or are you just that heavy in troops? And because of the sheer number of good high value troops that Wild naturally has that also work as removal. I'm looking at the dinosaurs, obviously. It kind of makes sense that Wild would have more troops, and why the Might Singer of Ages can work as effectively as it does. I haven't even seen it tried to be used with Wellspring yet, but I would assume Wellspring would be one of those cards where, hey, I'm gonna ramp, I'm gonna get you closer to that 5 wild threshold, and I'm gonna be drawing new cards.
Do you know if you play Wellspring, would it draw? Would it look at the top two cards if you played it for four? Or?
I didn't get a chance to really test this out, but I would assume you gain threshold one at a time, correct? So you would gain a threshold, you would text, you would try to draw it. If it's not a troop, it would go, and then you would try to draw another one.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that would be interesting to test later.
Yeah, so Might Singer of Ages, and then Dreamweaver Ancient, 4 drop, double wild threshold, speed crush. And we'll get into this, but when this deals damage to an opposing champion, create a random wild troop with cost equal to the damage dealt and put it into play. And it's a 4/3. So you're looking at a body that is a 4 drop, 4/3 speed crush. Even without the additional game text, that seems very, very cost effective on curve. Your thoughts?
Man, this card is just it's like the one card I'm really concerned about. It just seems way too good, and I think if we see any card have a change to it before the set launches, I think it's going to potentially be this card. Just the put a wild troop into play based on the attack damage dealt is very easy to abuse, and I guess that's what people have been doing.
Yeah, people were able to abuse it very quickly. I believe in one of my games, the Dreamweaver Ancient attacked and made another Dreamweaver Ancient, and at that you sit there and you're just like you kind of put your hands on the table and you look at the screen like okay, I, my deck's nowhere near as fine tuned, and you kind of like, wow, that's an awesome combination. But part of me wonders, how is this going to be stopped? Right. All the point of this, or of any trading card game, is going to be interaction, and Might Singer of Ages and Dreamweaver Ancient kind of feel like I'm going to play solitaire, and I might be able to play a better game of solitaire than you can play a game of solitaire, and I guess that's my concern on these two particular cards.
Yeah, Dreamweaver Ancient would have been fine if it had two health or maybe even three attack, because there's more ways to interact with it the turn it comes down.
Hmm.
I feel like I'm not sold on Light Singer yet because I haven't really seen it in play and what it does.
Hmm.
But I feel like Dreamweaver might need to have some sort of minor stat change so that individuals playing Hex don't get so frustrated by this card. It could make the game unfun if you're not playing it.
Yeah. I think one thing when you look at the entire set of Hero Fall in general is they're really changing the curve. Like a 2 drop 2/2 with Crush, 4 drop 4/3s, 4 drop 3/4s seem to be much more rampant, and there's a lot of like with really good game text, like Vampire King probably being the obvious 4 drop 3/4, where everyone's like, oh, okay, but there just seems to be every single shard, every single threshold has their go-to cards now that are extremely cost effective, and I think the power, I don't know if it's power curve, power creep, but they may be trying to be distancing themselves away from other games of what you would expect a 4 drop to be and a 4 drop to do.
And the other thing about Dreamweaver Ancient that makes it even better as a card is that it's paired now with Frolicking Revelers. So
Hmm.
you can, depending on your opponent and how they're playing against you, you can hold back on playing one of the cards if the other card is a better play at the time, and then follow up with the next card. And both of them are such huge threats that your opponent more than likely will only be able to deal with one, not with both. So it's going to be interesting to see how decks playing very strong mid-range cards do in the meta going forward.
Yeah, I am looking forward to this. I like we only got a glimpse in terms of deck design on the playtest realm, and Wild does seem to be like the threshold of choice right now. But obviously, all of that can change. In the coming weeks, where as more and more people are able to sit down and test their decks and go from there. Uh, all right, so quick question for you. Well, a quick question for you, and I guess we'll move right along to: is this for area? Is that how this game is pronounced?
I think it's pronounced Faria.
Faria. All right,
Faria.
all right. So Faria is a new free to play game that. Um, well, why don't you go ahead and take this one?
Yeah, sure. So Faria was a Kickstarter game that was kickstarted a little bit after Hex, so a little less than 3 years ago, and it just recently went free to play. You can download it on Steam. It's a really fun game that combines both a card game, and it's not a TCG though. It's a collectible card game. So you can buy the packs from the client. There's daily quests that you can do, kind of like Hearthstone. They have a an arena that's kind of like Hearthstone, or I guess kind of like Evo Gauntlet as well. And the game features cards and then also a map. So there's like a board game element to it where you're building land and you're trying to get to your opponent's orb to deal damage to their orb. And when you deal fatal damage to the orb, you win. So just something to check out. I think it's really fun. They have these new things in the game called puzzles, where it kind of teaches you how to play. And this screenshot up on the screen here says "win this turn," and it like develops a scenario on the board where you have to deal with your opponent's troops, and then also deal lethal damage to the orb. And it's really fun, and it's a great way to teach people how to play the game. They also have little quest, a lot of actually solo play content where you're playing against a AI opponent, and it's really quite well done. So if you're interested in picking up another game or just trying something out, consider trying Fairy.
All right, and going along the same idea of trying to win this turn and a puzzle, you came up with an interesting puzzle on back in Hex where a lot of people have said, Yoltul Mogot, the deck is just so easy to play, and you just kind of autopilot the deck, and the deck wins itself. And well, anyone who's actually tried to play Yoto Mogot knows that the order of operations matters greatly when trying to figure out how to best use all of your cards. And in this particular instance, you well, you have one turn to try and do as much damage. And well, how much damage can you do if you have under the following conditions? You're starting with five out of five resources on your turn. You have six charges, two blood, three ruby threshold, and well, obviously Yulta Mogat is your champion. What do you need to do? What's the order? And how much damage can you do in this one turn? And do we have some prizes on this particular puzzle for those out there who
Yeah,
are
so
posting?
this is a first one, and I think I'll try to make a habit of doing this every single time we have a podcast, so one a week. And for this first one, we will give away to three random people that get it right a Primal Dawn pack. So if you play Hex and you think you know the answer, I guess the best way to share it would just be leave it in the comments below, or do we want to make this like an email only thing? What do you think, Crota?
I don't know. I don't know how you want to handle this. We can do it email. I think email might be a little bit easier in terms
Okay, let's
of
do
having a
email. That way,
cutoff.
there we'll keep it clean, and if someone has the answer, they don't have to blurt it out to everybody.
Yep.
So go ahead and send an email to nicosharp@gmail.com. It's just my name, one word, NICOSHARP @gmail.com if you think you have the answer. And I will select three winners at random that get the answer correct, and we will send out those packs on the start of our next stream. So yeah, contact me if you think you know the answer. It's a nice little brain teaser, and it might actually allow you to go test it in the client, see if you can figure out what the damage looks like if you play these cards in the correct order.
All right, and one final thing, you had a mouse review come.
Yeah, so just something I want to do for fun. I got a brand new mouse. I really liked using the Razer mice before, but
Mm-hmm.
I took a chance on this new product called the UTech Smart Venus. It is basically all the bells and whistles you get from the super high quality Razer mouse. This company is new,
Mm-hmm.
and the price is basically half of what you'd pay for Razer. So than paying $70 or $75 for a high quality mouse, you're only paying 35. So I just wanted to plug this, say it's great for Hex, it's great for games where you have hotkeys because you can program all the hotkeys on the 12 buttons it gives you on the side. It also has 16,400 DPI, which is insane. I can barely use more than 3,000 myself without losing track of the cursor. So, and it has actually five different customizable settings that you can quickly toggle between. And it has an array of colors that you can program, which isn't really important, but it kind of looks pretty.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, just a quick plug for the mouse. If anyone's in shopping around for a new mouse, I would highly recommend this. It's very ergonomic, and the buttons for hotkeys in Hex are perfect. I use the 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 for all my hotkey needs. So anyway, just a quick plug for the UTech Smart Venus.
All right, so I think that's all we have for this week, unless I'm missing anything, Nico.
No, that's it. We're ending early.
Yeah, we're ending a bit early today, but for those of you guys who are listening to our podcast, oh yes, we will be putting the audio out there as a podcast in the future. So for those of you guys who can't watch live or need something to listen to while you are traveling somewhere, definitely look for us there. Also, if you guys have any questions for us or any ideas on what you want us to talk about, definitely ask us, and we will, do our due diligence and answer those questions the best we can. Until next week, thanks for watching, thanks for listening. Hope you guys enjoyed it.
Thanks. See ya.